Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having two of literally the brain trusts behind the forthcoming comic book, Miss MeXica comic. We have illustrator extraordinaire Gillian Alexiel and the one and only multi-talented NicDali. Ladies, how are ya?
What's up?
So good. So good. Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited. We're so excited.
Yes, no, I mean it is literally an esteemed pleasure because part of this podcast is talking to other creatives, or whether it be pro wrestling, whether it be MMA, filmmakers, actors, and what have you, the entire gamut. Because right now, especially after the tumultuous year that a lot of us have had, it's super motivating to talk to other people that are creating, regardless of what circumstances are, and won't let circumstance be the dictation of what their success will be. And you two with Miss MeXica have essentially done that, and we want to get into all of it. So before I get into it, how did you guys meet? How did you guys hook up? Because you guys
oh my God,
similar in taste and what have you, but literally worlds away, opposite ends of the seaboard. So how did this collective get its start?
well, basically, I was obsessed with Alexander the Great after seeing the movie, and I searched and searched for. I wanted shoes. I wanted Alexander the Great shoes, and I was like, I searched and searched, like spent hours searching online. Went down a rabbit hole. Well, then I came across these shoes that Jillian had made for one of her clients. And I was just like, oh my God, I have to have these. So I was telling Travis. And then I messaged her and I was like, hey, is there any way you could make these for me? And she goes, oh, I apologies. They're one of a kind. I can make you some like it, but I cannot make you the same exact pair. So, and that was Jillian. When was that exactly?
It had to be 2015 or 16 because I remember making the first commission that we did decide on for you was definitely it was around May 2016 when I had just moved back to New Hampshire from California. So that was really fun.
Now, and with NicDali, had you had this, I mean, obviously, we're talking about, a few years ago, close to 5 years ago, was Miss MeXica, something that was kind of swirling in your brain, while you have a successful hair career, successful fight career. How did that happen? What is the origin story?
Honestly, it wasn't brewing in my mind. I just literally what I wanted to do is I've been wanting to write a book for a long time because people have told me, oh, you have such an interesting life, you're an immigrant, blah, 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 crazy stuff that happened to me in my childhood, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go into it because that's a very long story. But, basically growing up, I was very into pyramids and ancient cultures and all of that. Well, when I was 13, my mom took me to where Cortez landed in Veracruz, and she took me to various Olmec pyramids there. Well, fast forward later on, I've always wanted to go to Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza and Coba, and I got to visit all those places. And I just it just was brewing and brewing. How come there is no Mexican, Aztec, Mayan superheroes? You know what I mean? There's none. And I was just like, there's so many Latino, Hispanic people that don't know their own roots, that don't know the history of Mesoamerican culture. And Julie and I have been obsessed with vampires. She likes vampires just as much as I do. And so, yep. And so it just kind of was just brewing. And then in December of 2019, I asked her to do a commission of me for a sticker, me like as a vampire. And then from there, that's kind of where I thought, you know what? I can screw has someone else doing it. Why don't I just do it? Why don't I just make the story? And then I called Gillian in right before COVID happened, actually. It was like
Yeah,
in
that was
February.
nuts. Mm-hmm.
And then I told her, I was like, hey, you know what? I have a project for you to think. I have a project that I'm thinking I really want you to be the artist for, because her and I have worked together for like, I don't know, 5 years, like, you know, in and out. Like, I'll be like, oh, I want this commission, you know, and she just always nails it. She gets me. She gets my vision. We just always just vibe like so perfectly. I don't even understand. Like, we have this synergy that
The
I don't
brainwave
have with anyone
thing.
else. Yeah. So yeah, you can tell the story from your point of view, Jillian, about
Right on. Yeah. So I love how like it kind of happened organically. Like once we created the sticker, it was like the character came right out of that. Like, of course, this, like, I designed things like in that like anime style or like comic book style, bright colors and everything. And obviously, like, you know, I'm taking features from NicDali, and then like a week or two after I think we created it, maybe like you were like, hey, and I was like, yes. You're like, just think about it. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, this is a thing we should do. And so it organically came from designing the characters for her and pulling all that. And then we just like tumbled down that path of character design, which is a beautiful and very fun path to follow. I don't know how far we want to get into it, but then like, you know, we started planning each character, kind of their core traits and values. And so those things are all part of the primer issue. And it's really fun because you'll get to like meet the characters, see their traits right away. And that's going to like launch us into the story.
No, 1,000%. Now, over on YouTube. Oh my goodness. There it is. Oh my gosh. And I mean, that had to be kind of surreal, right? Like, you know, the amount of work that you guys put into it, and to see it in tangible form, that had to be pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. We were both, when it was on its way, we were both like, oh my God, it's almost here. We're like, it took us 9 months to make this. This is our
Yeah,
baby.
it's our baby. It's our baby together. And it's kind of interesting, like, it's unfortunate and fortunate that like I was laid off from the job I was doing because of COVID, and it afforded me the time to kind of get this rolling with NicDali. So like I'm grateful for that. I was like always trying to do, I've always drawn, like I'm kind of self-taught. I didn't go to college for art particularly. I went for fashion design, but it's always kind of been in me. I've always watched cartoons. I'm a big anime nerd. I'm a big comic book nerd.
She loves snakes as much as I do.
Ooh, I do. So like we just channeled all of that into it. And once I was laid off, I was like presented with this opportunity from NicDali, and I guess I'm a full-time artist now, and that's been carrying on. And she's pushed me so much and so beautifully. I think everything that I do is becoming stronger having known you. So
I feel the same way, because you challenge me with my stories. You're like, well, where are you going with this? Because you know how I am. I'm like, I just blurt it all out, and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh,
yes.
Wait, no, there has to be a beginning, a middle, and end, you know. So
right on.
No, and the MMA superfan over on YouTube says, big fan of Nick and her husband Travis, as am I, like two of the most incredible people that I've ever gotten to meet. So
stop.
Absolutely. And he attended one of your last fights in Tulsa. Great show.
Oh wow, that was one of my last fights.
No, and, when you guys were saying, right, and when you, Jillian, were talking about like, oh, the fashionista and everything, and I'm like, oh, you too. Like, if I had known you guys separately and known of your taste, I'm like, you guys should be friends. Like,
Right?
that's
Like,
it.
Oh yeah.
let's hook up.
Like fashionista, vampires, like, I mean, literally, like, that's
Oh
it,
yeah.
which,
Snakes.
became Miss MeXica, right? Like, that's the genesis. That's the order, like the origin story of the origin story.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
poetry.
We're actually working on issue 2 right now,
Mhm.
and it goes by chapter on Patreon. You can see it. You can go, and if you become a fan, of Miss Mexica or of Jillian's art or my storytelling, you can go on there and chapter by chapter you can see it being created. You know what I mean?
Now, how important, like empowering is it, right? The fact that you know, especially in comics, right, has been a male-dominated genre of entertainment, right? But you two are essentially, Nick, you didn't go to, like a storyboard class in college and whatever. You were literally painting your masterpieces all over the world with your fists, right? Gillian, you
Right.
were doing it with a different elf, right? So the fact that you two can independently distribute like your vision without having to go to any standards and practices, any lawyers, and all that stuff, and literally get your vision, what you see, what the representation looks like visually, how the archetype of the story, the heroine becomes. Like, you guys get to form and cultivate it in your own image. Like, that's got to be super empowering.
It's
Mhm.
super empowering. I know it is for me. What do you think, Jillian?
Well, especially where my art has never I've never censored my art. There's a lot of female nudity. There's a lot of just luscious bodies happening. And I know with the advent of social media, that's become harder and harder for me to share with the public. So it's very empowering. It's very freeing for me to just be able to be free form. I created this. I don't have to. I can do it exactly the way I want to. I can do it to NicDali's specifications. Our whole theme with this is just nothing is too much. We're putting all the extra into it. So it's over the top colors, over the top characters, and it probably will get a little saucy. I think we're gonna get a little gory first, and we're gonna have some beautifully choreographed fight scenes, which I look forward to illustrating. And especially coming from a natural fighter, come on, I can't wait to see that happen. Won't give anything else away, but it's gonna be just and I love that you called it superheroes, but we're not sure. We haven't labeled
That's
these
true.
characters yet. They're gonna be kind of god level, so they're gonna do what they want when they want, and that's part of us expressing that empowerment. So I'm really looking forward to it, as much as I hope everyone else is looking forward to how the story develops.
Yeah,
No,
you're go ahead.
no, I was saying, especially what the central figure is, right? As somebody of an immigrant background, right? A female, right? Which, and a lot of times, I feel like even in major forms of media and whatever, it gets overlooked, and I don't know why, right? I mean, it's I mean, in a bit of total disclosure, I might not look like first generation, but my mom came over from Fiji, right? And because the pathway to citizenship, even though she worked at Inglewood City Hall with the mayor of Inglewood and as one of the assistants, like, she couldn't get her citizenship, right? And the thing about it, she ended up passing away as an illegal immigrant, total disclosure, because there was no clear pathway. So how important was it for you to have that representation in your character?
To have that representation, I just really wanted to have the Mesoamerican myths come to life, so that way people could see basically the duality of man. You know what I mean? Basically, like Gillian said, they're not really like a superhero, because there's going to be times where they do things where people are going to be like, wait, but they're not a good guy, they're a bad guy. You know what I mean? And that's like how people are in real life, is like sometimes you do things and other people might view it, and they might be like, you're a villain, you're messed up, you're fucked up. You know what I mean? But I did want to represent the culture, the Mesoamerican culture, which I feel like is so oppressed. You know what I mean? I went to the Spanish Inquisition Museum in Mexico City. Well, it's Toluca, it's by Mexico City, and just seeing that, like, people got tortured and all kinds of crazy stuff. They had all the torture stuff in there just because they thought they were a witch, or because they had to renounce their culture and their religion, you know. And that's been going around for like centuries. And I'm like, you know what, we live in a day and age where we can just create and bring those myths to life in any, you know. Jillian and I can our comic book, we can create however we want it to be, you know what I mean? So,
and we won't be burned as witches. We're people, damn it.
Exactly, we're human beings. But it's important to answer your question. It's important for me and Jillian to have strong female characters, so that people can realize that a female can be strong in many ways, not just athletically. You know what I mean? You can be a strong woman and be a career woman, be an artist. You know what I mean? It's a different variation of definition of what a strong woman is to you, you know?
No, 100%, 100%. And I'm super glad that you are taking, and you know, a lot of the stories, because of, you know, the nature, you know, especially here in the U.S., right? You know, immigrants, like, you're almost, you know, to a certain degree, you know, kind of paintbrush with like bad because you didn't do the thing, right? Like, that happens, right? So, you know, by you telling some of the story in the vein of art, which, you know, my sketchy artist says, you know, art is a way of creative self-expression, right? You're exploring, you know, what would normally be taboos, right? Social taboos, you know, even with the sexual, you know, the sexual deal, where, you know, women and femininity, and how that could be, you know, construed to a certain, you know, demographic. I just saw an article, I think it was a Vice article, about a professional MMA fighter who grew up as an immigrant, and he expresses himself just beyond the cage by doing drag in San Diego, right?
That's
And it was just,
awesome.
it's femininity, but it's not like he's a heterosexual guy. He identifies as heterosexual, whatever, but he grew up with, you know, strong female, you know, what have you, and he felt good. That's what made him feel good. And to me, in a world where it's super hard, especially when you adult, right? When you're a kid, you're like, I want to be adult so bad because I get to do stuff, right? And then like the bold hammer of reality kind of slams down, and you're like, ah, oh, damn, I got all this shit to kind of contend with, right? And you know, you guys are not looking for anyone else, no male, no authority figure to define who you are, what strength is, what femininity is, what sexuality is, but you're able to, what art is, right? What censorship is or isn't, right? Basically being able to take all of those things, right? Everything that you guys have personally gone through in your lives, in your walks as artists, right? And pull from this and just literally emit it, you know, almost like a la the rings in Captain Planet. And like, you know, Miss MeXica is your own Captain Planet. You guys are admitting that.
Oh yeah. Totally. 100%. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
And I like what you said about, like, you know, you wait as a child to do those adult things, and you wait to make your own choices. And I think like even from childhood, we're handed those choices are made for us simply by what toys we're given, what we're supposed to play with. I'm a girl, I'm supposed to have Barbies. I know some of those dynamics are changing now, but like, you know, I played video games as a kid. That was like my number one hit. Oh, I can swear. That's right. It's my number one shit is video games. So like, I think I was inspired a lot by that. But some people, you know, they don't get those choices. They're just very definitely given certain things, certain hats to wear. When you're a kid,
I agree with that. Yeah.
You have to explore more. It's just, it's interesting. That's a whole
That's a whole
thing.
other topic. I'm grateful that my mom was a strong woman and that she told me, NicDali, when you're an adult, you can do whatever you want within the legal, you know, parameters or whatever.
I think you're a morally upright person. I'm sure it didn't come into.
But you know, like what she basically said, like when you're an adult, you can do whatever you want and you can follow your dreams and you can be an MMA fighter, you can be a businesswoman, you can, you know what I mean, do all these things. And I think that's what we're trying to convey in Miss MeXica. You know what I mean? Is to open people's minds up and with entertainment as well, you know, because it's fun. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, number one, it's fun.
It's fun.
I'm
looking at it right now.
And I think we're both stubborn enough where like forging our own path just seemed to be like the most viable option. Like we're both like oh, we're doing this and we'll figure it out along the way. Like so I don't think we ever stopped to consider like how we were gonna do something. We just like made it happen, and every time we needed something or needed information or needed to figure out like the printing, like we were just like, here we go, and we found it, we did what we needed to do. And I mean, thank goodness for good digital equipment now. Like I use Clip Studio Paint, I have a Wacom tablet, and like I come from traditional art. I'm just now learning digital art as of shutdown. So like I'm excited to see how far I can take it. No boundaries, no limits. Like I learned so much from like putting the first book together. Everything we've done has been handmade between the two of us. We just never stopped to think like we can't wasn't even an option. We were just doing it. Like
we're doing this. We don't care.
Many of our phone calls look back and she goes, can you believe it? Like, when did we even decide that? Didn't we say that last night? Like, when
yes,
did
we did. we okay. So when we first started Miss MeXica, we literally were only going to do a digital comic. We weren't going to print it. And then we figured out that we could print it like indie wise, and we're so doing it. So
that's amazing. And again, you know, the process that you went through, which, you know, it's funny because what I like to think, right, where I'm a big pro wrestling fan in addition to MMA, right? And right, so we had the Last Ride documentary, right? We just went through that. We went through, you know, the Undertaker retiring at Survivor Series, right? That I'm literally sitting on a Survivor Series 2018 WWE chair, right? So with that all being said, you hear some of the layers that get peeled back and like what the Undertaker was and conceptually what it was, and you know, Vince McMahon calling like, is this the Undertaker? You know, so Gillian, I want to know what was the character described to you, the concept described to you as told by NicDali?
Of Miss MeXica?
Yes.
I think that's the character she described the least because I know her and it was based on her. So for me, the traits, this is gonna get like a love story. The traits that I pulled from her, like obviously you wrote the bio after we created the character, but I'd been pretty much kind of drawing you for the years that I've known you. I've always been putting elements of you and your personality into the work I create for you. So obviously, like strength, beauty, positivity. You're the most positive person. You're the most positive influence I have in my life.
Aww.
And that's done nothing but like push me to be a better person myself, to be like, how can I reframe this day and like get something out of it? Like I got, like sometimes if I have a bad moment, like I gotta just put it away and move on and get my shit done. And like that's part of like, that's definitely part of like what I want to put into the character that I get from you, NicDali. I'm getting a little embarrassed.
No, don't be.
It's just the ideal, the perfect ideal of doing what you want with your life, of what it means to be strong physically, mentally, what it means to be always learning something. Like you're always coming to me with like answers to a problem, or like, oh, this is what I learned today. It's inspired me to feel this way. We should incorporate it. Like that's always fun and surprising. And I want to incorporate that into the character. And then like physically, we both like the same sci-fi stuff. So like Jodorowsky kind of artwork, Mobius, those kind of old comics. Yeah. Giger. Oh, that's right. That was a big one. But I always feel like I try to do the like I get a lot of the details, and then I stray because of all the colors I use.
Oh, but I like it. It's like perfect. It's literally perfect. I wouldn't have it any other way, you know. We're not trying to be him, you know. It's just our own inspiration, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's his own person, and you know very well he's him.
For sure.
But Miss MeXica to Gillian as myself, I was like, you picture me, you know, and picture a female that's like strong, and she's a vampire, and she's a colonel, and she can fight, and she has all these superpowers. She has all these superpowers because they're vampires on Earth, on the planet that they're going to be on, because they're not on their planet originally. You know what I mean? They had to leave their planet, and basically through a black hole they had to leave their planet. And so basically issue 1 is them discovering and navigating this new planet, and they don't know where they're at. So it's fun.
And then on top of that, I think what I learned the most was then when we brought like the deities into it. So each character has like a godlike deity that we brought those characteristics in. So that's where the learning came in, like for sure for me, learning like some of the Mesoamerican culture. Although oddly I was taught some of it in grade school, like so like I was able to have some familiarity with like Quetzalcoatl and not many of the other ones. I'm learning so much, and it's just it's so beautiful, such a beautiful heritage. I feel really honored to be able to work with you on it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I mean, you two, I mean, obviously this is a labor of love, but I mean, you didn't make it easy for yourselves, right? You're talking about a culture that is, you know, thousands of years old, right? Like, you know, and to do that a service, right? To not do it a disservice, like you are going to get backlash, you know, if you're wrong, you know, that it requires not just pushing you to your boundaries of storytelling, of creativity, but also, you know, being able to highlight a story and the culture so rich, you know, but to do it justice.
Well, it's Mesoamerican myth inspired, so it's not going to follow along exactly like the myth. It's just inspired by the myths. just so you can be like, oh, what is that about? And then you go research and figure it out for yourself. But honestly, there's so much on the internet, and Gillian can confirm with me on this, is that there's so much that people don't know, and then they think they know, and then they realize they're wrong. And so there's so much like back and forth. It's hard to decipher what really was going on back then, you know, because so much of it was covered up that, you know, I feel like I have a little bit more of an insight because one of my mom's friends was the archaeologist, and I got to spend a lot of time with him when I was younger. So he, you know, instilled some of his knowledge of what is really real and what isn't. You know what I mean? For example, oh, which one is that
He's
one?
yelling. I don't know why.
Oh, he wants your attention.
Yeah.
But for example, you can look it up. There's plenty of articles online that support this idea. They didn't believe that Cortez was a god. Maybe for like a brief moment, but the emperor knew who he was. He said, "You're flesh like I am." Like there's a passage that says that. You know what I mean? So that's just something that was invented. So.
Which, you know, I gotta ask, right? So the first episode, because you're talking, I mean, there's a lot of deep and texturous, you know, layers to what this project has been, right? We're talking about, you know, sexuality. We're talking about like, you know, immigration. We're talking about like, you know, there's so many things, and then you've got, you know, your guys' love for an affinity for vampires, and also challenging the depths that you're willing to go as a storyteller. Like, whoo! And then the first episode hits. You know, so to talk to me about the experience and path towards, you know, that first issue, and then like what is the response that you both have been getting?
Well, I know for me, basically we took it chapter by chapter and character by character. So like Gillian was stating, each character has their own way of being, their own characteristics, their own physical. They're all completely, totally different than anything you've ever seen. And so that's what we did. We just took it literally step by step every day. You know, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? You know what I mean? And we had meetings, you know, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, especially getting it printed. That was probably the hardest part. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Jillian, same.
So for the story, like because what we're building is so rich, and the history that we're working with is really so full of detail and just like very specific mythology. For the first issue, what we really wanted to nail down was like the characters' personalities, so that you had an idea of what you were getting yourself into. So the first issue has bios of all 7 characters, all 7 main characters. There's obviously going to be more introduced as we move on. It has the first 5 pages of story, which I'm going to call like a prologue. And then it has like a series of pinups, which is the most fun for me. And I think that the best way to describe it is it's a sort of a very feminine pulp comic-ish. So it's all full color. And then like just now, like we said, like sign up on Patreon if you want to like see where the story goes. Now we're like digging into a lot of what we're talking about with the mythology, and we're going to push that story forward. It's going to be story heavy from here on out. But the first issue, the primer issue, is really your introduction to the world we're building. And that was important for us to establish.
The MeXica world.
Yeah.
The MeXica universe.
No, and I'm looking at the illustrations, and it's, I mean, they're intense. emboldened. They're in your face. And I mean, it's kind of cool to see that, this just started as like a vinyl stickering type deal, right? That was the world's
Just
first
some
introduction.
shameless self-promotion, as
Right?
you do.
Yeah, like and oh my goodness, it's just and you're seeing like every kind of aspect, especially in like the top nine, right? Like you see people of color, you see people of like outworldly, characters that you're intrigued. You don't know exactly what they are, right? And to me, I think, especially as a storyteller, you always, and a teener, right? Because this is a form of entertainment. The
Yeah.
You want the audience wanting more, right? So if you can kind of pique their interest to kind of peek inside, wow, you got them, you got them.
I hope so.
I hope so. And to answer your question, the reaction that I've gotten from people that I've actually shown the comic book to has been quite surprising. One person said to me, "Oh, well, this isn't anything like Superman or Captain America or anything I've ever seen before this." I'm like, exactly. It's not supposed to be. It's its own thing. And another thing that people said was that it's just so different than anything they've ever seen that it's intriguing. And this is people from all walks of life. It's not for kids, I would say, because there's nudity in it, but all walks of life, grandfathers, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, you know what I mean? It's 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, everybody's just amazed by it. So I'm really happy with the feedback that we're getting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Now, Craig Claiborne over on Facebook saying, "Hey, Adam," and I want to believe that he's doing it in the Val Venus voice, so I'm going to go for it. "Hello, ladies," right? Had to check in and show some love, so thank you, Craig. And
Hi,
yes,
Craig.
that's exactly what he meant. And my MMA super fan is actually asking a MMA based question, and he said, "Hey, I've heard rumors that the UFC introducing an atomweight division. Have you heard similar rumors?" I'm going to go on a limb. I haven't heard such rumors, but I'm not like, you know what? Every division, anybody that wants to compete, like, heck, there's Fallon Fox, right? There should be a transgender division, like whether that happens in the UFC or not. Like everybody that wants to do the thing, they should have a way to be represented. And this is this is essentially the essence of Miss Mexica, right? It's all cultures, to be emboldened and encouraged to be your true self, because there's a lot of people kind of living in the shadows and kind of cast off as things. Oh, you can't make weight, especially in MMA. You can't make weight. You're not a fighter. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But there's room for everyone, right? But what that means to each individual organization remains to be seen. But I hope for anybody
I
that
haven't heard
wants,
rumors. I haven't heard
you have,
rumors. I mean, I used to be hopeful about it, but now I'm just like, I don't know, especially after COVID, I'm just kind of like, I don't see it happening. Not for a long time.
yeah. Listen, everybody represented. So thank you for that question. Now, in terms of, it's hard to pick, right, a baby, right? But is there any particular character that either of you identify with,
All
outside
of them.
all of them? Okay.
I
And
love them all. Gillian, you go. You first.
I have a favorite, and my favorite is Yoali.
Can I show him?
Yeah, please.
it's you. Oh wow.
So he's kind of like, if I could do this, if I could say, think like Attack on Titan. This is a skinless. This is a warrior that took and wore the skins of his enemies, of the humans that were sacrificed to him. He's very powerful, but also very fun-loving, and so I'm looking. He's my favorite to draw for sure. So I'm really excited to develop his character and push him forward in this story. As NicDali says, like, I really love them all for their own reasons, but I don't know how it happened. He snuck into my heart a little bit more.
He's one of my favorites too. I think what inspired me to kind of create him as a character was I went to an exhibition called Bodies where they have on full real bodies, like they have the muscles and everything. I kind of was like, I want a character like that. And then when I was searching through the myths, there was the character that she's speaking of is a god, where they literally the Aztecs would take they would take the skins and they would like wear them, and it was like in honor of the god, and they would dye them yellow. So that's why he's like muscle and like yellow. So and it was it's kind of like I attribute to that kind of festival was kind of like how the Greeks and the Romans were like into like Bacchus and like Dionysus and like festivals and like, you know, type things. So he's also like, he fights hard. He's a hardcore warrior, but he also loves to drink and party and have a great time. Everything he does in life is hard.
Yeah, to have that full-on spectrum, that's the the variety is the spice of life. That's the adage, and I absolutely love it. And especially the fact, again, challenging what your understanding of your own capabilities as artists and what have you, right? This is super cool that you saw an exhibition, right, and thought, oh, character, like that's another way where you're kind of sampling other kind of forms of entertainment, other forms of life, and what have you, and pulling it and literally emitting that into this central role of what this project has been for you. That's got to be, again, forgive me if I'm a broken record, but that's as a creator, right, to be able to interpret the world. I mean, we watch movies, and a large part, you get in the trailer. They just say a particular director, and fans have said director, not even the actors or whatever. They're hook, line, sinker. You're in, right? So how cool is it to be able to pull things from your individual taste and even things that you didn't think you knew you liked and funnel this into this project? That's got to be really cool.
I don't even have. I can't even. I can't even describe it. Gillian and I have so much fun.
Yeah, I think it's part of you so deeply. Like, I think you've been gathering this information subconsciously for such a long time that, like, even if it surprised you when you said, like, when you had the idea finally, like, let's do this, like, probably it was simmering in the back of your mind for so long. When I was still fighting, I literally got on Twitter like almost every day for a few months. And I tried, this is when Stan Lee was still alive, and I tried to get him. I'm like, Stan Lee, why don't you have any Mexican superheroes? Like, what's up with that? Like, you know what I mean? And I got no reply. But anyway, yeah. It's been brewing. I wonder if he ran his own Twitter. I feel like maybe he didn't have that.
No. I'm sure he didn't. Yeah, I'm sure he didn't.
But I mean, now they're presenting it's the Latina version of Wonder Woman.
What? I had no idea.
A few months ago they announced it. I don't remember. I don't typically read superhero comics, but yeah, I remember them announcing it and just being like, oh, we're first. We're like, no. But that's just rehashing an old character. Like, I'm sure they're gonna pull like modern culture into it and more of the Amazon backstory. But like, what are you really gonna bring by rehashing an old hat?
True that.
I'm a little tired of it. Like, I have some favorites that I grew up with, but like, I don't know.
I never asked you. What's your favorite?
My favorite, like, like mainstream superhero. Like growing up, I was a Batman person. Like growing up, I was a Batman person. Like because Batman the animated series was on, and I watched the shit out of that.
Me too.
On the other hand, like when they launched Image Comics, like I was huge into Wildcats and the Max. Like those are some.
Are you like
those are some dope superheroes. Oh, Image Comics saved my life. Like when they launched that back in the 90s, their stories, man. So that's some hardcore shit. I shouldn't have been reading the Max as a kid, but it was on MTV, so
well, there you go.
That and Aeon Flux, like that shit was huge for me. I think that went a long way for like female empowerment stuff.
Me too. Yeah. I've said this before, but my favorite growing up was Catwoman, just because she was like borderline villain, borderline, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you never knew like where she stood.
That's a character that serves her own purpose. Like she came up, like her traditional character was someone in service to like her boss. So like when shit went wrong, she was like, all that, like, and then she's just gonna. I mean, I love the classic trope of like jewel thief, like especially from old stuff, like, and then like one of my favorite anime, Lupin the Third, like there's a female jewel thief named Fujiko in that, and she will just be like, I'm here if there's a diamond, and I just like love that. Like she just steals stuff. And I like how they presented the original Catwoman as like a jewel thief for a while. Like the new 32 had a cool Catwoman too. I forget. I think it was Jay Lee who did some of the covers for that, and I love his artwork.
Yeah, me too.
Some of that like strong black. I think that's kind of influential. I know like they're doing a lot of new comics now. I really like, I love the style. There's a lot of like round figures and neon colors. I like what you showed me was the Witchblade comics, right?
Yeah.
And like, so that has all that strong black in it. Like, whereas I never read that series, but like, I do remember all those covers, and you showed me that artist as like, this is like part of the style I like. So some of that got translated in for sure. I don't remember how we ended up on I don't know where we started with this. I think
that's okay.
Now, NicDali, do you have a favorite?
Out of
when you were growing up, did you have a favorite?
Oh yeah, I just Catwoman. That's my favorite, just because she was bad. She wasn't bad, you know. I had a crush on Batman, so you know, like she got to be with Batman.
People. That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny. We didn't know this about each other. Mm-hmm. That's how much we always talk about Miss MeXica.
That's amazing. Which AG Los Perros says this is all dope. Shout out to you, good sir. And are the books going to be in English, Spanish, or bilingual?
So right now they're in English. I think Gillian and I decided that in the spring we're going to come out with a Spanish one. The same book, but in Spanish as well.
Yep.
Breaking news. There you go. You guys hear it first. That's awesome. That's tremendous. You know, and comic book revolution. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to know, and for those who are wondering, I had a weird one, right? I actually liked Steel and Meteor Man, and you got to think about it, right? For those times, first off, Meteor Man, Robert Townsend, right? And most people know him from the Parenthood in the late 90s and what have you, but like the fact that he was able to like be a person of color, African descendant of slaves guy, to get a production that he wrote and everything that isn't too dissimilar from what you two are doing. So that was it. And I remember my dad actually walking me into like a black bookstore and getting me the there was like a bendy of Meteor Man, and I was just like, I just looked at it because that was the first time that I'd ever seen somebody that looked like me represented, and in not a villain role.
Yeah, seriously.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of obviously, this is like you're still in the beginning, right? The first issue, the first episode is done now, right? And available on Patreon. But do you have a goal in mind, or are you guys, just enjoying the journey as it's coming to you and this creative renaissance that's happening?
We have goals. We have goals. I would say my goal for it is to basically, and I believe this is Julian's goal as well, because we've talked about this, is to create a whole universe of like a whole MeXica universe with, we started off with Miss MeXica, her first, Colonel Dali, Colonel Dali, and then, we're going to have spin-offs as it goes on, because it's going to go through different timelines, universes. So there's going to be different characters, different problems. You know what I mean? So they're immortal. They're vampires. So you know what I mean? It's gonna be a whole universe of all kinds of crazy stuff. That's our goal, is to basically make all of those into books.
Now, have you, through this endeavor, and again, this is, it takes a lifetime to become an overnight success, right? So you guys are, nearing a half a decade in this collaboration, what have you. But compared to where you guys were when you started this journey, and now what you guys define yourself as storytellers, like what traits have you picked up along the way that you didn't have when you first started?
Well, for me, my storytelling is way better. My writing is way better. I'm more dedicated to it. I write something every day, whether it's for MeXica or Miss MeXica or not. It doesn't matter. I'm constantly finding new ways to be inspired for the MeXica universe, and also I've become more legal savvy because I got an attorney to copyright our book and trademark it. So yeah, there we go. Julian?
I've learned that I'm grateful for NicDali handling the business side of things, so that I can just sit on my butt and draw and get better at drawing. And I'm just a sponge for interpreting all the fabulous over-the-top things she tells me. And I'd like to say I'm becoming a professional at translating that right into our story and holding nothing back. On the technical side, like, I am getting better every day. Like, from page 1 of the comic to where I'm at now, like, you can see improvements, and eventually I hope there will be more stability, but I definitely learned by doing. So you get to grow with me as part of that process, and I hope everybody's here for it, because it's a journey, and like, I just hope like everyone you gotta just dive in and do it. Like, sometimes if I thought like, oh, I'm not ready yet, or like there's no point at which I'm gonna feel ready, we just had to do it. Like, when do you want to start? Now, immediately now, and let's get this done now. And I love that. Like, just get to sit and draw. So great.
Just draw? Are you kidding me? Like, you create universes, you illustrate them so beautifully with every detail. Like, just draw? I wouldn't say that that's just what you do. I've worked with other artists and they're not like you, that's for sure. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. There's no one else I'd be able to create this with. You're my what do you call it? Creator, soulmate.
Right on.
Which, in terms of, people and deities that have helped you along the way through this endeavor, both professionally and personally. Let's get some shout outs out of the way. So, Jillian, we're going to start off with you. So, who do you want to shout out in terms of helping you get encouraged by this endeavor?
Oh my goodness. Oh, maybe NicDali should go first.
Okay, let's
First,
here we go.
first and foremost, I'd like to thank me and Gillian because it's just her and I as a two and our attorney. What's up, Sandro? You're the shit. Anyway, I'd like to thank my husband, Travis. He's pushed me to follow my dreams, to why he challenges me, like, why don't you do it? Why don't you figure it out? You know what I mean? I want to thank my mom because without her having her archaeologist friends take me to these pyramids, teach me all this culture, I wouldn't have been inspired to create MeXica, So I want to thank my MMA career because without it, I wouldn't have the tenacity or the mental fortitude to be able to push through some of the barriers that Gillian and I have encountered making this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and West Coast Academy. Yeah, you're the shit. Okay, I'm done.
They are the shit. Shout out to the
Oh,
West
my
Coast.
fans, all my fans on OnlyFans. I love you guys. I adore you, all of you. Okay. And our Patreon.
Awesome. First person I need to thank is probably my sister. My little sister Janessa bought me the tablet that I use, and that was just like a beautiful, selfless, like, I believe in you move. Like, here you go, big sister. Like, I love you. And I don't tell her enough. Even if I tell her every day, which I try to, I don't tell her enough how much I love her and appreciate her. And without her telling me like how great I am and how great I'm going to be, like, she's been such a positive influence. That's what sisters are for, I feel like. Otherwise, NicDali is pushing me, so thank you, NicDali. And then I think I'd like to, the first thing I ever was published in was another indie project called Knoblik Lane by Kate Sharon, who illustrated it. And she actually has a new comic out now, Chained to the Grave. It's going to be a 5-part series by IDW. She did all the illustrations for it. Apologies, I don't remember the writer, but it's gorgeous looking. It's bright and beautiful, and it's kind of a Wild West story with some kind of magic going on. So shout out to her for letting me have an illustration in her first publication. So that's, turn around. And my husband, he's a cool guy. he's always helping out, showing me new art and stuff, new anime that I can waste my time on but be inspired by. It's his fault I like wrestling, so that's been an inspiration. Like, yeah. Oh man. Obviously, thanks to everyone on Instagram. I'm an old school deviant art person, so like I still know like tons of people for years and years, and just swapping and sharing art for that long has been just a huge positive influence on me. So I'm grateful for my internet community. Like, y'all are great. I hope you watch this. I'm gonna plug the hell out of it. And here's to new friends, because I hope this catches the attention of some new people. I'm always down to chat. So,
me too.
Damn right. Oh, I can't thank you ladies enough for not just being the incredible people that you are, but I mean, I believe, right, there's going to be young storytellers or even maybe more tenured in life storytellers that are going to seek inspiration from what you guys are creating and create themselves and ushering a new wave of independent, influential artists that are using all forms of media to get their art to who they need to. So I thank you two for that.
Oh, thank you. I hope
Thank
so.
you so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
No, and the pleasure's all mine. So go ahead and check out. Oh, and again, where can people find out more about what you two are doing, as well as Miss MeXica?
So for Miss MeXica, it's if you want the BTS, the behind the scenes, chapter by chapter, go to the Miss MeXica Instagram, and on the link, there's a link to the Patreon. And so you can explore that world for just $2 a month. And then we have higher tiers than that. But if you just want to casually check it out, it's over there at Miss MeXica Comic on Instagram. And then for myself, at NicDali on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere. OnlyFans. Gillian?
Right on. Yeah, it's very accessible. So, yeah, definitely follow us on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Alexiel. You can type in Gillian Alexiel and find me. I'm Gillian Alexiel on everything else. So, Twitter. I started a YouTube channel. My dream is to start streaming on Twitch. I need a microphone though, so you can go follow me in anticipation. I'm just gonna draw and talk about artwork. It's very exciting for me, but I need some followers, so come check me out. I'll get that microphone this week, I promise.
That's incredible. Well, here's a little bit of an Easter egg for you, Jill. Well, guess what? You're on Twitch right now. So there you go. Oh shit! Yeah, we're on Twitch. Yeah, I'm just saying. So again, ladies, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I can't wait to see where Miss MeXica is going to go and where it challenges you too as artists. I can't wait. There it is.
Drops this Friday.
Yeah, damn right. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods, and go ahead and follow them on their social media pages, and you'll be glad you did. But while you're in the following mood, go ahead and give a like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Absolutely. I mean, you two are subscribed, right?
Gonna be. I'm gonna hit all those.
If I'm not, I will. I'm pretty sure I am.
So they're gonna do it. So you should do it. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Do it, or I'll appear in your house and smack you around. No, I'm just kidding.
You will.
Right? You know what they say? At least 2 or maybe even 3 in one accord is the gospel. That is the gospel. But guess what?
Right.
If you don't believe 3, how about the 4 in pro wrestler Zeta Zhang?
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to